La nueva película de Disney Pixar Buscando a Nemo es la apasionante historia de un padre que busca a su hijo perdido. Pero tiene una peculiaridad: el padre y el hijo son peces. Vamos a las profundidades marinas y conozcamos a los protagonistas: Marlin, su hijo Nemo y su amiga Dory. Bien, Marlin, cuéntenos, ¿cómo comenzó esta aventura?
Uy, es una historia muy larga.
Cuenta, vamos.
De acuerdo, Dory. Era el primer día de cole de Nemo. Se puso a nadar, se alejó mucho y lo atraparon unos submarinistas.
¿Unos submarinistas?
No me digas.
Sí,
Y después...
me metieron en un acuario, en la consulta de un dentista.
Vaya, te debiste sentir... ¿Qué veo? ¿Es una cámara? Hola, soy Dory.
Hola, Dory. La consulta del dentista estaba nada menos que en Cine y Australia, y para llegar allí tuvieron que enfrentarse a medusas, ballenas y tiburones, ¿verdad? Eso es mucha tela. ¿Por qué no se rindieron sin más?
Porque teníamos que salvar al pequeño Pesto.
Es Nemo. A Dory le cuesta acordarse de las cosas.
No es verdad, no me acuerdo de nada. Me entra por un oído y me sale por... ¡Ay, madre! Eso es una cámara. Hola, soy Dory.
Ajá. Marlin, cuénteles a los espectadores que nos ven. Después de cruzar el mar para rescatar a su hijo, ¿cómo se siente? ¿Ha cambiado usted como pez? En fin, no se puede pasar por una experiencia así y no verse afectado, al menos
Tráilers.
internamente.
Visita mi canal.
Bueno, yo antes solía superproteger a Nemo. ¿Nemo? ¡Nemo!
¿Quién no se
¡No
haya
tiene
escondido
gracia!
que se
¡Sal de ahí
esconda?
ahora mismo!
Ido.
Hola, compañeros.
¡Nemo!
Aquí dentro hay un montón de cosas. Un zapato, una bici, una tabla
Nemo,
de surf.
haz el favor de salir de esos dientes tan afilados.
Oye, que me los acabo de lavar.
Marlin, a los espectadores les encantaría saber cómo rescataron a Nemo.
La verdad, no quisiera destripar la historia.
¿Nos da una pista?
No,
Pequeñita.
es que no puedo.
Venga.
No, es mejor
Ya
que...
está, se acabó la entrevista. Apaga la
¡Ay,
cámara.
madre! ¿Eso es una cámara?
¡No!
Vaya, supongo que este ha sido el colofón. Hoy he aprendido dos cosas: que el amor de un padre es capaz de superar todos los obstáculos y que hay que meter la cámara en una carcasa antitiburones. Y como siempre, recuerden, ustedes me vigilan a mí, así que yo los vigilo a ustedes.
Este es el estudio de grabación, donde hacemos todas las voces de Buscando a Nemo.
¡Qué guay! Pero ¿cómo transformáis las voces en la película terminada? ¿Con peces que hablan?
Te voy a enseñar las instalaciones y verás cómo se hace. ¿Quieres verlo?
Vale, qué
Muy bien,
chachi.
pues vamos. En primer lugar, te voy a llevar al departamento de
Andrew,
guión
llegamos
gráfico.
tarde. Tenemos reservada la sala de visionados. Te están esperando todos allí.
¿Ahora mismo?
Sí.
No sabía que fuera ahora mismo.
Hola, ¿es este el departamento de guión gráfico?
Sí, pequeño.
Andrew me ha dicho que la película se empieza por el guión gráfico.
¿El director? Entonces lo que hacemos en el tercer acto...
no.
Ponemos un pez y...
¡No está conmigo!
Bueno, ¿qué podemos hacer por ti?
Quiero saber cómo disteis vida a la película Buscando a Nemo.
Pues estás en el lugar apropiado, en el departamento de guión gráfico. Te vamos a enseñar lo que hacemos. Verás, primero hacemos un puñado de dibujos que acaban pareciendo un TVO grande, que nos cuenta lo que ocurre en toda la película.
Después lo representamos los unos a los otros para ver qué tal va.
Y después hacemos muchísimos cambios. Añadimos dibujos, quitamos dibujos, y cuando llegamos a algún punto realmente difícil, tenemos la hora de pensar en el guión. Consiste en que todos apoyen la cabeza en la mesa durante un par de horas.
Con los ojos cerrados.
Eso, ahí está la clave. Tienes que cerrar los ojos para que se te ocurran historias buenas para el guión.
Me encanta inventarme historias.
¿En serio?
Pues ¿sabes qué hora es?
¡La hora de pensar en el guión!
Hola, ¿qué haces?
Pues estoy diseñando los personajes de Buscando a Nemo.
¿Cómo mola? ¿Y cómo lo haces?
Pues me dedico a observar peces de verdad en acuarios, en el mar, en libros y esas cosas. Y me fijo en las formas maravillosas que nos ha dado la naturaleza y en todos los diseños y todo eso. Y después me pongo a dibujar y a darles vida a estos chavales para la película.
O sea, que te sientas, dibujas y ya.
Hay mucha labor de diseño previo y ya llevo 3 años trabajando en este tema.
¡Hala! Has dedicado la 10ª parte de toda tu vida a una sola cosa.
Pues, ¿sabes? Tienes razón. Nunca lo había pensado.
¡Hola! ¿A qué os dedicáis vosotros?
Somos animadores, chico.
¡Qué chachi! Andrew me ha contado un montón de cosas guays sobre la animación.
¿Qué acabas de decir?
Que Andrew me ha contado cosas guays sobre la animación.
¡Atención todo el mundo! ¡El erizo viene por el pasillo! ¡Erizo en el pasillo!
Te enseñaremos cómo hacemos las animaciones.
Visita mi canal.
La animación consiste en dar vida a los personajes.
Quizá pienses que, como los peces no tienen piernas, son más fáciles de animar. Pero en realidad fue muy difícil.
Diría que los animadores somos actores, solo que actuamos a través del ordenador.
Un momento. ¿Yo soy el actor? ¿Queréis decir que ya no me necesitáis? ¿Me sustituiréis por un ordenador?
No quiere decir eso en absoluto. Mira, las voces de los actores nos inspiran para lograr la actuación que necesitamos para hacer una película genial. Oye, ¿te gustan las galletas? ¿Te gusta la animación, no?
Mira, he hecho a Dory.
¿Yo un tiburón?
Chachi.
Ya te digo.
Hola, ¿qué estáis haciendo?
Trabajamos en iluminación y efectos. ¿Nos acompañas?
Vale.
Empezamos haciendo que el agua se mueva adelante y atrás. Es el oleaje.
Y después ponemos partículas como suciedad moviéndose en el agua. Y después añadimos este modelo de iluminación cáustica que parece que baila.
¿Y por qué no usáis refracciones verdaderas moduladas por la superficie del agua?
¡Oh! ¡No se me había ocurrido! ¡Oh! 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 ¡No! ¡Oh! ¡Oh, no!
¡Adiós, papá!
Adiós, hijo.
Muy bien, genial.
¡Bien! Chicos, es fantástica. ¡Hola, Alexander!
Oh, Alexander, vaya, lo siento, me lié por ahí.
No pasa nada. Han sido muy simpáticos y me lo han explicado todo. He visto un montonazo de cosas chulísimas.
Me alegro, ¿sabes? Te va a encantar el DVD. Hay un documental estupendo con muchos detalles que se llama ¿Cómo se hizo buscando a Nemo? Lo pasarás genial.
¿Seguro?
¿Has aprendido algo mientras andabas por ahí?
Sí, he aprendido que no importa lo mucho que trabajes. Siempre hay tiempo para hacer el vago.
Estupendo. ¿Hacer el vago? ¿Quién hace el vago? ¡Quiero nombres!
El mar. Desde arriba no es más que una simple capa de agua. Pero por debajo hay un complejo mundo lleno de color, vida y maravillas. Este es el arrecife de coral, elemento de belleza intemporal para el solaz de todos nosotros. Sin embargo, la mano del hombre ha destruido más de la cuarta parte de los arrecifes del mundo. Exploremos juntos la frágil belleza de la naturaleza del mundo submarino. Yo seré vuestro guía y anfitrión. Soy Jean-Michel Cousteau. El coral, que crece solo unos centímetros al año, ha tardado millones de años en crear el armazón calcáreo del arrecife. Y aunque se encuentra en aguas pobres en nutrientes, el coral ha aprendido a medrar. Pero no lo ha hecho él solo. Ha desarrollado una asombrosa relación con las algas, unas minúsculas plantas que viven dentro del cuerpo del coral. Este vínculo es delicado y la introducción de nutrientes adicionales puede alterar el equilibrio y poner el arrecife en peligro. Pececito, estoy intentando rodar un documental.
¿Un documental? Siempre he querido salir en la tele.
Estaba explicando el delicado equilibrio que existe entre el coral y las algas que viven dentro de su cuerpo.
Anda, que las algas viven dentro del cuerpo coral. Venga, es asqueroso.
No lo es.
Claro que sí.
No.
Sí, sí.
No,
Nah,
no.
Da igual.
No, no da igual. Es verdad.
¿Y tú qué sabes? ¿Acaso eres un coral?
Soy Jean-Michel Cousteau. Y llevo toda la vida estudiando el mar.
Pues yo soy Doggy y he vivido en el mar toda mi vida.
Pues mejor para ti, pero ahora tengo que seguir con mi documental. Adiós, Dory. Las anémonas también mantienen una relación especial con sus habitantes, los peces payaso, que
¿Payaso?
viven en...
¿Alguien ha dicho peces payaso?
¿Y ahora qué?
Carlin, Paquito, este es... Perdona, ¿cómo te llamabas?
Soy Jean-Michel Cousteau.
Arrêtez la musique.
Estaba intentando hablar de las anémonas.
Entonces, perfecto, porque aquí el amigo es Don Anémona.
Bueno, yo no diría tanto.
Sí, papá, tú lo sabes todo sobre las anémonas.
Bueno, vale. Las anémonas son como caracoles, pero no, caracoles no. Son como una capa de pelos punzantes. Eso, una gran capa de pelos... no. Ya, imaginaos que los espaguetis hablaran.
¡Ya basta! Si guardamos silencio, tal vez veamos al camaleón del arrecife, la increíble sepia.
¿Quieres ver cómo cambia de color?
Pues,
si quieres te ayudo, yo hablo sepio.
¿Qué es que el fe?
Oye, por favor, ¿podrías cambiar de color?
No,
Ahí está Carmen. Hola, Carmen. Federico. Manolo, ¿qué tal, Manolo? Basilio. Hola, Elena. Yolanda. Felipe. Gloria. Hola, Gloria.
Shashifi, estoy intentando hacer un documental. Incluso la adorable bailarina española depende de la...
¡Tiembla, arrecife! ¡El terror de las pistas!
¡Parad! Dejadme hablar. El mar en el que viví se evapora y forma las nubes. Las nubes producen nieve. La nieve se derrite, se transforma en ríos, agua de riego, agua potable, y después va a parar a los desagües y vuelve al mar. Todo el mundo en todas partes influye en el mar.
¡Hola! ¡Qué alucine!
¡Hombre, por fin escuchas!
Sí, ¿se oye el sonido del mar?
Arrêtez maintenant! Je ne peux pas travailler comme...
Señor Cousteau, Jean-Michel, ¿está usted ahí?
¿A dónde ha ido?
Ya he vuelto. Estoy bien.
¿Quiere que le traigamos algo? ¿Quiere un vaso de agua?
Papá, ¿por qué este coral está blanco?
¿Tú te has fijado en que cuando estás malito te pones un poco pálido? Pues eso es lo que le pasa al coral. Se vuelve blanco.
¿Qué le ha pasado?
Mira, cuanta más energía usan los humanos, más contaminación se crea, y el calentamiento del planeta resultante aumenta la temperatura del mar. Cuando esto ocurre, el coral no sobrevive.
¿Se va a poner bien?
Verás, Nemo, no va a ser fácil. La gente debe aprender a vivir en un mejor equilibrio con la naturaleza. Debe conservar energía, reciclar y reducir la contaminación. Pero si hacemos todo eso, es posible que la temperatura del mar descienda y el coral pueda florecer. De hecho, hoy es la noche mágica del año en la que se reproducen los corales sanos. Mirad, está ocurriendo.
Quitus Trailers, visita mi canal.
¡Hola! ¡Mirad eso!
¡Vaya!
¡Qué alucine!
Fijaos en esto.
¡Feliz cumpleaños, coral! ¡Felicidades! ¡Felicidades! ¡Felicidades!
Aunque parezca increíble, los corales liberan todos sus huevos en una sola noche para que ni el pez más hambriento pueda comérselos todos.
¿Qué está haciendo? ¡Papá!
Cuando crezcas un poco, hijo.
Las acciones del hombre dañan el arrecife y por eso debemos ser responsables y cambiar nuestras actitudes para protegerlo. Porque estamos tan vinculados a nuestro planeta como los corales a las algas que viven dentro de ellos. Y
¿Hay
si
algas
hacemos...
viviendo dentro del coral? ¡Es asqueroso!
No es asqueroso.
¡Claro que sí!
¡Que no!
Sí,
¡No!
sí.
No, es normal. Mira, ¿trabajan juntos?
Eso-
Las algas son plantas que alimentan el coral y los corales fertilizan las algas.
Pero cuando hay contaminación, el coral no consigue extraer suficiente comida.
Mirad, cuando...
¿Sabéis un montonazo sobre el arrecife?
Bueno, no es tan difícil. Basta con prestar atención y escuchar.
¿Y entonces por qué no me escucháis a mí?
Hola. ¿Quién eres tú?
Soy Jean-Michel Cousteau. Silencio, silencio. Corten, corten, corten. Eclipsado por unos peces. Esto nunca le habría ocurrido a papá. Adiós. Soy Jean-Michel Cousteau.
We just want to make a good movie. We just want to make a movie that entertains us, that I would want to see, that doesn't exclude anybody.
Oh boy, this is going to be good, I can tell.
Final.
I always believe in research. No matter what the subject matter is, you cannot do enough research because so much believability will come out of what's really there.
I went on numerous field trips and research trips.
Going to the museums to actually take fish out of the bottles and have a look at them close up.
I went to every single person early on in the film and said, you have to get certified scuba diving, you have to go underwater. We cannot make a movie about the underwater world without you experiencing it firsthand.
The design of the coral reef has been really interesting because we had all taken scuba lessons and gone and looked at the coral reef. It was spectacular. Just experiencing the reality of a world like that has an enormous psychological impact and an impact inevitably on the work you begin to create.
People came back just with these eyes like, it was amazing! You know, I said, I told you!
Well, one of the first things I did was I got together with the R&D group and we looked at images of things underwater and we thought, what is it that makes you believe that it's underwater?
We put together our simplest version of an underwater set, almost like My First Ocean, and tried to make that look like it was underwater. Our first test appeared to be either a chlorinated swimming pool or a very foggy day on a heath somewhere in Scotland. We didn't get ocean water.
Each of these individual aspects of being underwater looked great, but we couldn't get them all to work in concert together. And I just picked a couple shots of things above water and things below water from real footage, and I said, okay, using exactly the tools that we have created and nothing else, I want you to see how close you can mimic these actual shots. And they came back a couple weeks later, and they put the two images up, the actual live action footage and then our footage, and I couldn't tell which one was which. We were shocked. I mean, we were elated because it's like, oh my gosh, we did it. I mean, it looks like water. Then we had to sort of pull back and go, wait a minute, it looks too real. We want you to believe that it exists, but we want you to also kind of feel that you're in a make-believe world.
We just push on a story as hard as we can, and we try and buy ourselves as much time as possible to work out every aspect of the story.
It's really important for us sort of at the head of this big pipeline before it gets down to layout and animation and lighting to work this thing out right. And that includes pacing of a film, that includes the emotion, making sure that people are feeling things as the movie progresses.
And on Nemo, Andrew thought he had the magic bullet because he wrote the screenplay himself and had a complete screenplay going into this, which we don't always do. We thought that this whole process was going to be much smoother sailing. But the reality is once you put these movies up in storyboard form, a lot of things come to light that aren't clear when you're just reading words on a printed page.
The thing that finally makes it on the screen is all about rewrite, 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 rewrite.
Is that funny enough? Make it funnier. Okay.
And a good portion of the rewrite process is not done by the screenwriter, you know, at a word processor or a typewriter. It's the story department. It's the guys that sit in a room with you for close to 2 years, batting out ideas, countering your ideas, drawing up story panels, putting them up on a wall, pitching things, putting things on a reel down in editorial. It's a very malleable, messy, glorious process.
Sometimes it's about doing things over and over and over and over again. And even though I've done this a lot of times, it never fails to bring me to that point wherein, oh boy, I don't want to do that sequence one more time.
When it works, it's amazing. The power of what you can do with a group of great minds. But it can also be very, very frustrating because there's not a singular mind at times.
Can you help me?
No. You get yourself in there, you can get yourself out.
When it really got dark and we didn't know what to do, Andrew Stan and I would jump in a car and we'd drive to L.A. You know, instead of flying down to go down and record Ellen DeGeneres or Albert Brooks, we drive 6 hours. But what that would force us to do is to just talk it out with no other distractions. And we worked a lot of good stuff out that way. When I watch the film now, I can remember where we were on I-5 when this idea was brought forward. In fact, the Nemo initiation sequence was written on one of these trips.
Shark bait! Shark bait! Ooh ha ha! Welcome, brother Shark bait! Shark bait! Ooh ha ha!
We cut the boards together with dialogue, temp music, temp sound effects. It's very important that the experience of viewing the story reels for the audience is going to approximate the experience of viewing the finished film.
Just one point! Good eye!
We spent a lot of time, we spent years, in fact, honing this story reel to try to create the best, most solid, entertaining template for the movie.
Good eye!
What we decided to do was to establish a range of underwater color to track the characters through the film. So with the reef, we start with crystal clear, kind of very light greenish turquoise. And as the film progresses, it gets darker green turquoise, and then black, and then blue. And then as we get closer to Sydney Harbor, it becomes greener. The pastels are used to kind of outline the color and the mood and the lighting for the entire film. Here's this morning in Pelicans. I start off again with a big broad stroke color palette. We try and figure out time of day and mood for the film. And then as we move forward and things are getting finalized in story, I go back in and just visit key shots in a scene to kind of provide a direction for lighting.
He'll put out the inspiration for what the scene should feel like and how it fits into the whole.
We'll scan them in, and then she'll take them and she'll balance the colors a little bit.
And he'll see it later and he's like, wow, that looks as good as I was hoping it would look, which just, of course, makes me feel like $1 million.
It was by trying to make a shot appear to be like you see when you scuba dive and you're underwater that we came up with a whole bunch of elements that were critical to making a shot feel like it was underwater, which include how it surges and swells back and forth, the particulate matter in the water itself, murk being the fall off of color, that water filters differently than air, the caustic lights, which is the light play from the surface that you see in the bottom of a swimming pool, the beams those things go through, because water is so much denser than air, you can see the light shafts themselves. Okay, now how is it different being in a reef than being in deep ocean water than being murky in a harbor? Oh, okay. So now you have to find different settings for all those various things again and set the levels again, so you get, harbor water and sewage water and clear open blue ocean water, murky ocean water, bright sunny reef water that's shallow at night and at day and at dawn and dusk.
If you look at fish, it's amazing how little we did have to caricature them, because they're so wild in their shapes and forms.
They took a lot of scientific input, but there are some things you just have to do in order to act that fish don't do.
Real fish have the eyes on the side of the head. They don't have eyelids, and they don't blink, and they don't talk. So how do you design a fish that is able to talk and emote and everything that the animators are going to want to put in there? We looked at how dogs emote. The subtle movements of their eyebrows is enough to emote like sadness or happiness.
Neutral. Excited. Angry.
Stern.
Sad.
And it's the same thing with these fish designs. We put enough eyebrow mass in there to really get the nuances of emotion. So I basically now have to flesh that design out, start figuring out the details about the fins and the gills and the mouth and the teeth, and turn her around, draw from so many different angles. So as I'm developing that character, there are some designs that Andrew really likes, Andrew and Ralph really like, and then they give it to Jerome, Ralph, the sculptor here.
We're generating these sculptures to pre-visualize character design. We knock these out in clay, just like this, and we do it as fast as we can so we can get as many changes from the director and the art director, as many as we need.
That's really when the magic happens. Starting to see that 2D drawing come alive in 3D, and it's like I get all this amazing information from it. I start seeing it in a new way. I start turning it around. I look at it from the top and the bottom, because you never know if that's the way they're going to be seen in the movie.
Once the sculpt's done and we get approvals, then it goes on to the modelers, and then they actually start building them in the computer using our clay sculpts as reference.
Then we would have animators come in and help us figure that stuff out too. So the process is incredible. It's so collaborative.
Sharkbait, you did it!
Sharkbait, you're covered with germs!
The shader and texture art director is responsible for taking those models, both sets and characters, and giving them life in terms of the scales or textures on the surface of these characters.
Tropical fish die a lot, unfortunately, and so they always have a good supply at fish stores of dead fish. So then we'd take them and we'd slap it on the scanner and we'd hold it up to the light and see what it looked like, and started identifying what the important characteristics are of that fish. What color they are, what kind of texture they are, how they respond to light when lit. So like whether they're shiny or smooth, whether they're velvety or translucent.
So you do like it, don't you?
No. I do. I really do like it.
We had, I think, this bag of tricks as animators for bipedal characters. We'd all carried around with us, even ever since Toy Story 1. It wasn't until we had done the first few tests that we had realized that it's a completely different language. I think for most animators it takes a good month or two of like pretty intense stuff to really get into understanding what makes a fish feel like a fish and adapting their old bag of tricks to the new bag of tricks. One thing I always equate it to is animating fish is like animating toilet paper underwater, but like muscular toilet paper. It's so loose and smooth everywhere, but then muscularly driven that's a hard thing to do.
One of the first lectures I gave was on how fish move, and I was sort of amazed to get called back just 2 days later to sort of look over some of the things that they had dummied up based on my lecture. And this fellow was showing me how the fish moved and everything. I said, they can't move their pectoral fins like that. That won't look right. A fish can't just sort of do that. He said, you know, Adam, fish don't talk.
It takes a tremendous amount of effort to create something that looks effortless.
You're pushing the envelope, you're stressing your production plan out as much as you can to bang on the story and get the lines just right and get it edited just right.
Crunch time is like almost like literal, It's like you have so much that comes right at the end because you've taken so much time to plus the story.
I think when things get really tough around here and when you start to feel the stress build up, that tends to be when we kind of explode as a group and people just go crazy. We tend to kind of just blow off steam or whatever.
What happened when we moved to this big building is you don't see the people that you used to see all the time. And I think that a lot of us were missing each other and missing that collaboration. It's called the Ugly Contest.
Basically, all of the men have grown mustaches. The women have put eyeshadow on from their eyelids all the way up to their eyebrow, like obnoxious colors. When they're in the building, they have to have it on. When they're outside the building, they can take it off. So I think they actually get away maybe a little lighter because this thing doesn't come off.
I started adding more makeup, and eventually I had the complete face, and then I decided that I'd start to wear different outfits. As the contest went on, people were going out and checking each other out more often, and we did get around to each other's offices and chat and look at each other's work and get feedback and just had fun.
I know. I pushed my belly button and pulled. Woo! That was fun!
On the production, we have what are called shot briefings for the animators. And to be honest, all that is a fancy word for what all directors do with actors. You may be talking about what your character's motivation is, or simply, you need to be swimming here, and you suddenly have to be at this point in the frame by the shot's over. Whatever the actor needs to make the scene work.
I remember it. I do. It's there. I know it is because when I look at you, I can feel it. And I look at you and I'm home.
I can say to you, she realizes she doesn't want to be lonely anymore. I don't think she's that articulate, and she understands even that clearly. But I think she's felt it. She just hasn't formed it, right? So it's like forming as she's saying it, right? So she's like, if you leave, you know, it's like basically I will be lonely. But she doesn't even know that yet. She's just like it's going to be bad, right?
There's definitely acting that comes from the voice talent, but it's really people's ability to get inside of that character. You have to know all about it in order to bring a character to life. Otherwise, the character's not alive, it's just moving.
I locked the door, I closed the door, and I put up some pictures of different people or things in my life that were important to me that are gone now, and kind of put myself in that moment for a while, and it was a depressing day. But, and then after a while, after I was really kind of in the moment, I looped the dialogue and I kind of went with it, and then I turned on my little computer camera here.
And I look at you and I'm home.
So working from that has been a great help, and hopefully, since it's coming from a sincere place in me, when it's coming out of Dory in the film, it'll feel like it's coming from a sincere place from her as well.
It's almost like when you show your shot, you're naked and you can't hide behind anything.
So yeah, I haven't shown it to Andrew yet.
It's there. I know it is because when I look at you, I can feel it. And I look at you and I'm home.
She comes across more collected than I think we want her to come across as. My initial response is that you have to have a little more jerky left and right on top of your stuff at the beginning. Some hint, some tell that it's all falling through her fingers right there as she's talking.
There's a lot of this back and forth that happens, and this super fine tuning, so that you get a really appealing character, and they always feel organic, and they never feel computery.
It feels like he's locked in space, hanging from a hook right here. Did you try stretching his neck? Just like a half-beat pause. Oh, you know, like that. He just swam. Ooh, scoot, 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 you know? You know?
Just it's like, yeah. If we've done our job, you never sense the technology that's behind it. You just get the art out of it, and you get the entertainment out of it.
I remember it. I do. It's there. I know it is because when I look at you, I can feel it. And I look at you and I'm home.
Final! 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 Yeah!
I think that the interior of the whale scene is a good example of just an enormously challenging sequence from all avenues. We're inside a whale mouth, most of the time underwater, and the whole whale is underwater, and it's at night. So where does the light come from? You have to invent something that looks believable, shows the action, makes the characters look appealing.
It makes it really hard on lighting to have two main characters, one that's blue and one that's orange, in a blue environment, because you want the orange one not to go black because, you know, you're hitting it with blue light.
There was some concern about Dory disappearing, considering that we're in a lot of blue in this film, and turquoise and things. But that just goes to show you how terrific the lighting staff is here.
Yeah, we're a little hot. So what color is your sunlight? That really super deep, dark blue. Get a good shadow of Squirt on Father when he's doing the head nod. Some of this might be in shadow from the cabin.
Yeah.
I'd say the most challenging part of my job is usually we have a lighting crew that's 30 to 40 people, and we're all trying to make the same movie. We're all trying to make shots that look like they could have all been lit by the same person.
It looks awesome. Final.
Graham said, we got to film about water. And, oh, what kind of water? Is there splashing water? Is there pouring water? Are we underwater? Are we above water? Oh, actually, we're all those things. Oh.
Here you just need a sim of the water being affected by this boat rock. This is the big kickback splash.
Yeah. The producer half of my brain looks at a schedule and goes, I cannot splash water in 800 shots. I cannot afford to do this. Okay, the director half of my brain says, we're going to splash water in 1,200 shots. Every shot needs a splash because we're in water. Okay, both are not really true, so where's the middle ground? If you do it right, you get a couple shots you spend a lot of money on that look just, they're so cool. You just melt. They're amazing. And the water does everything. It's completely real. We totally controlled it. And you feel like a rock star. There are a couple shots you do about half that in, and a couple shots you don't do very much in at all. And if you pick just the right ones to spend your money there, as an audience member, you watch it and you believe the whole thing.
Almost 3.5 years. That's a long time to work on something and still not know whether or not it works. I mean, I thought it worked, and I thought it worked the first year that I worked on it.
It's like you never really know until you see it with that preview audience, especially when you've seen it so many times.
2 years later, after a lot of dead ends or wrong turns and changes, you just get sort of beaten down.
About the 20th time, you're not laughing at that joke anymore, and you forget that that joke's funny.
I was in a very vulnerable state, and I think the whole production was. We just didn't know what we had. So when those lights went down, my stomach was just churning, and I was practically hiding my face because I didn't know.
Not only did the screening go well, they were the best 2 screenings we've ever had in Pixar's history.
It was amazing. I found myself realizing that I had pretty much followed Father's journey and gotten to the point where I was just seeing everything half empty. And that was my moment of seeing things half full, you know, for this picture.
The time we'd taken to get the story right really paid off. It was really resonating with the audience, and of course it was also the shot in the arm we needed to come back home and go, all right, let's crank this thing out, let's go.
Tus trailers. Visita mi canal.
Animation on Nemo is officially done.
When you take an audience to a place you want it to go, and they get there, that's just unbelievably satisfying. Because that means that all the stuff you spent doing for years and years and years actually worked.
It's been a long, tough road. But we've all been there before, and we know that it's worth it. It's worth all the hard work.
I've always known, even in the darkest days of the making of this movie was going to be stunning. And it is.
Once the dust settled, I feel like, wow, now this movie isn't exactly what it was when I planned it, but when I watch it, it's exactly what I wanted to feel like.
Dad, you can let go now.
Sorry. Hi, my name is Ralph Eggleston, and I'm the production designer on Finding Nemo. My role was to work with a team of artists to provide a visual style for the film with the backgrounds and the characters.
Hello, my name is Ricky Nyerva, and I'm the character art director for Finding Nemo. My job was to make the characters look fantastic.
Hi, my name is Robin Cooper, and I was the shading art director on Finding Nemo. And my job is to make Ricky's characters look even better by addressing the surface qualities of those wonderful characters, and also the surface qualities of all other items in the film.
We're going to sit back and look at some artwork from the pre-production of Finding Nemo. What's really fun about it is everybody has a different take on the same subject, and it's just great to kind of inspire people, especially the director, so that he can begin making decisions on what he really wants. What we're going to be looking at first is what we call the prologue, and it's the opening of the film, and it kind of sets up Father's dilemma. He's there with Mother, and they're looking at the eggs right before a barracuda attacks.
This is an image of the barracuda, and if you look closely, you can see Mother's tail hanging out of his mouth. And Andrew Stanton, the director of Finding Nemo, wanted us to go more of a kind of like a bullet train design for him, just speed.
This is a painting actually trying to design or define what kind of metallic highlight we'd have on the barracuda itself, and what kind of the shape of the scales and the shape of the chevrons and that sort of thing.
This was a piece that just helped us define the kind of fanciful nature of the world of the reef. And the coral reef is so beautiful, but there's so much there. We had to find a way of organizing it and simplifying it and paring it down and choosing. This was a piece that was done exploring the translucency, or what we call transblurency, of the anemone tendrils.
And just how translucent we'd want it to be. We wanted it to seem inviting and not like he's living in a bunch of water balloons.
This is a development piece of Father, Mother, and Nemo, and this is very, very, very early on, even before Nemo has his lucky fin.
It's his father looking out on the world, something he doesn't really enjoy much of anymore because of what happened to him in the past.
This is one of my favorite pre-production.
The beauty of all these images is that the light is just so incredible. This is a great pastel of Pearl.
Flapjack octopus.
Flapjack octopus.
In her actual flapjack octopus color, which of course she didn't turn out to be.
Oh, they have some pink ones. They have pink ones.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
Ours does. Here's a great picture of early Dory capturing her nuttiness in this piece.
Her wacky nature.
Wackiness. This one piece, Andrew knew that this was our character, Dory.
One of the cool things about the character is the eyes, and I don't know if it's this drawing so much as it is about the eyes and the depth that I was able to get in the eyes that are really based on Ellen DeGeneres' face and her eyes. She's got such beautiful blue eyes and such deep shadows in her eyes. Bruce Chum and Anchor, the three sharks in our film.
Yep. And Andrew and Ralph really wanted to go for a scary, scary look. He just kept giving us the direction of just go scary as possible.
This scene was always in the movie, although they were playing volleyball with the mines originally. This drawing kind of set the tone for this entire scene, the entire sequence in the film, in terms of the set.
And this is a painting for what a mine might look like, and also for a suggestion of what the moss hanging from the mine might look like.
Oh, there's so many details about this piece. It's incredible. You can even see the welding.
This is a painting exploring the wall of the abyss wall, which is what the submarine is hanging out over. This is part of the anglerfish sequence, where anglerfish are these fish that have these little lures over their head that kind of lure fish to them.
There's so many different types of anglerfishes out there too. They run the gamut of having smaller eyes to larger eyes, and the artists would do different iterations of that to try to find our character for the film.
And also there's a lot of machinery on the thing, like, the glowing light and the lure and the runway lights and the teeth. Pearlescent eyes and the teeth that have to be see-through, and there's a lot going on that character.
Now we get into the tank. This is the first scene that was put into production in the tank, and it was called Initiation. It's where the other characters that have been in the tank already are kind of bringing Nemo into their gang. The dramatic coloring, the orange color of the volcano really did kick back some of the colors on the characters. Works for this scene, but we did have to keep reminding ourselves that you will see them in regular lighting. They're not always going to look like this.
We can't change them so that they look good just in that scene.
This helped us establish the Vegas-style lighting that we wanted in the tank.
And color. There's lots of color there.
Lots of pretty images. That was one of the funny things, is that we wanted the entire world of the dentist office to seem antiseptic and drab, except for the tank.
Everyone remembers the toy chest after you get your examination from the dentist, and we just try to get all those little details in there.
If you look closely in the movie, you can see a Buzz Lightyear hanging out there. This is Gil. The essence of the character was story-driven and character-driven. We knew the voice was Willem Dafoe. It really helped us nail it.
One of the hardest things about Gil was trying to make that long dorsal fin look really beautiful.
The drawing exploring a character named Peach. Jacques is a snail.
Escargot.
Escargot.
The final design of Jacques, he really captured that kind of quirky French attitude. A little cleaner shrimp.
The antiseptic nature of the exam room in the dentist office. Also the waiting room. In both cases, we wanted to keep the waiting room warm and friendly, and then the exam room very antiseptic, just like a dentist office might be. What we call the trench.
a little squishy.
The entire jellyfish scene is one of the earliest put into production, but one of the longest in production. It's about 8 months worth of work between the design and the camera work and the layout and the crowds. I think in a few shots there's 6,000 jellyfish.
This really captured the glow, the pink glow that these deadly creatures
Yeah,
kind of
Andrew wanted it
emit.
to look like a wedding tent.
The idea here has always been for Andrew that it's this very beautiful, diaphanous looking thing that's deadly.
Oh, this is a beautiful piece of all the different pelican variants. And great job of making them all look different, have different personalities.
This is Gerald, Nigel's best friend. Supposed to be a little bit fatter and a little bit more scruffy. Originally wanted a 6-pack of plastic
on his leg.
And
That's
this
right.
is Nigel, early piece. A little bit dirtier of Doc's, a little bit more older and traditional. We ended up going with something else slightly more modern. There was an entire scene in the movie where Nemo was going down the toilet and through the sewage treatment plant as the water was being cleaned and then dispersed into the ocean. This scene got cut very, very far back. These are some sequence pastels showing the lighting and color for the water at the outflow pipe. This crab is being fed to the seagulls by Dory. The fishing net, and very WPA style. What we tried to do with the lighting and the color here is tone everything really far down because we like the black and white effect. Although we didn't want to go completely black and white, we're striving to achieve a feeling of black and white without entirely going black and white. We were able to make the world be very high contrast and dark, with darks and lights without a lot of color, so that Father Nemo and Dory really pop out from this crowd of fish and all of the activity going on here. So this is just a selection of artwork from a lot more that was done. It kind of provided the director with a vision of the style of the film. This was really just a starting place, and the film grew from here.
So if you'd like to see more of the artwork
that was done for Nemo,
you can go to the galleries and poke around on your own. Well, thank you guys for all your help.
Thanks, Ralph. Oh, and I've loved working with you guys on this film, and I just wanted to say thank you very much.
So here's that $20 then.
Okay. All right.
I'm going to my trailer.